Welcome to Amy Kardashian and the Expert Show, where the experts share their wisdom, knowledge, and powerful insights to help you transform your business and personal life. I am your host, Amy Kardashian, not Kardashian. In this segment, I have a wonderful guest with me, Teresa Burnwell. And Teresa, she's going to share with us how to find yourself in a storm. That's a pretty good subject right there.
Yes,
It's
it is.
And Teresa has earned the support of Walmart, Target, and Starbucks. That's a huge, okay, that's pretty good to get that support.
Yes, it
And
is.
she is the founder and president of Single Family Services. Her mission is to help strengthen the community one family at a time. Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah, thank
for
you,
you to
Amy.
have that kind of goal. I want to ask you first, what really inspired you to come up with this support one family at a time? Can you give me your background, your story a little bit? I'm sure you have a story behind you.
Of course I do, and thank you, Amy, for
Sure.
that wonderful introduction. First of all, I'm a single mother of 4 beautiful children, and it was in my struggle when they were younger. My oldest, their father, was murdered when they were 3 and 5.
Wow.
And it was in that time frame of struggling with, not financially struggling, but emotionally. With the loss of a father, you know, you expect to
I
have
can just
children.
imagine.
Yes, and you know, have the father around. And from that impact of trying to find resources, even though I had my mother to support me, you know, my brother, I have a very small support system, but reaching out to try to attempt to get any kind of help in that time, and even sometime nowadays, can be quite arduous. You have to jump through so many hurdles and hoops. So I sat down one day
And
to
judgmental.
Yes,
People
yes,
judging,
yes.
yeah.
And you know, I learned that when you say, for instance, you go to apply for any type of assistance, and I was ecstatic about the fact that they looked at what I grossed versus what I was bringing in. So I said I wanted to create an organization that was free of all of that chaotic. Not that it's not important, because you know you have people that do try to
Sure.
work the system, but I wanted to design a program to help people get the help that they need without having to show me what their personal finances were, you know, where they were in life. When people come, I do hope for the holidays. When they come, they want me to look at their check stubs and hear their story, and I'm like, no, I don't need to hear any of that. My goal is to help.
Well, they wouldn't be there in the first place,
Right.
really. I mean, unless they have that
Exactly.
kind of personality, they want to
Exactly.
beg just to beg.
Exactly,
You
and
know,
so
who
it was
wants that?
Exactly, it was in that period of knowing that my children, just they're wonderful kids, even through the you know, kids go through their stages of growth. I knew that I wanted to provide better for them, and also
You're such an inspiration.
thank you. So in the interim, I also knew that if I could make it through that, then I would be able to, even if it was just helping one person or 2 people, as long as I was able to provide some sort of assistance, that was my goal.
So that's why you're saying one family at a time.
Yes, my children were my inspiration because they deserve the best. And unfortunately, the outcome for Kiara and Kyrie wasn't the best. You know, their father was killed, but I knew that as long as I had breath in my body, that I would do what I needed to do for all 4 of them. And so that's what I've been on a mission to do.
Wow, that's a mom. And sometimes so many people, they lose hope.
Yes.
It happened that you found courage, you find hope through your kids.
Yes.
You know,
Not only
They
did
kept
I
you.
find the hope in my children, and I didn't look at where I was at that moment. A lot of times people, you know, when you in a storm, whether it be a rainstorm, the automatic instant reflex is to defend yourself, to protect yourself. Storms come not just with rain, but they come in personal storms.
Absolutely.
Not just last in one day. We might have 1 or 2 days of rain, but I'm talking never-ending battles. So those are what I define as storms. And so in the midst of my storms, I took very, very few times to feel sorry for myself.
Here you go. That's very important. Very few times to feel sorry for yourself.
Yes.
And just that's how you get out of your own way.
Yes. My mom
Beautiful.
is always, she laughs at me sometimes because my imagination can be quite outrageous. But that's how I made it through. And so my steps on finding myself in the midst of my storm and storms was to first, I had to mentally relocate. I had to find myself, even though I was here at this place with my children, with no husband, very little support, working sometimes 2 jobs or 1 job, I had to play mental manipulation with myself and envision myself being in a place that wasn't where I was currently. It's just like going to bed trying to find a comfortable spot. And oftentimes, trials and tribulations can make us elusive to reality. And so I could see myself 5 years from now, even though I was sitting down now just writing out my purpose and my mission for single, I can see myself 5 years from then doing what I've done 5 years ago. I can see myself on vacation somewhere, even though I wasn't, so a lot of times we have to kind of play mind games with ourselves in a positive way.
Of course.
In order to get to that next level, even through the day.
So when you're going through this stress and that moment when you have 4 kids you have to feed and you have a job to go to and one is crying, one is complaining, and one is sick, and one is doing all this, what did you do? What steps did you take to really look at that as I could manage this? What did you tell yourself?
I well, in the midst of my yelling sometimes.
And that's okay once in a while.
In the midst of that, I knew, I just need to grab a little water, please.
Sure.
I knew that it would be okay.
Just knowing.
And not even that, my daughter, my oldest, she's my only girl, I was very transparent and honest with them. So if we were dealing with something, good or bad, I kept them up to speed. Not that I dumped things on them, but, I made them aware, if this is what this is and this is what my hopes are. There were a lot of things I had hoped to do for them and maybe didn't come to pass, but nevertheless, I remember one time my children have really just helped me. My oldest daughter, one day I was crying about a breakup, and in the midst of that, having to deal, we were low on food. Like you said, my mom was that day getting ready to bring over a pot of something she fixed. And I remember leaving out and coming back because my oldest, she was mature enough to watch the younger ones. And there was a note on my door, on the front door. As I came in, I would see it. And it said, "Don't cry. Because
Wow.
when you cry, we cry. And it'll be okay."
Wow.
And that was from my oldest daughter's sign from all the children. So along the way, as we would hit bumps in the road, like I said, my mother, she helped a lot until she relocated. I would just know that today may be a bad day or a challenging day, but there's always tomorrow, and I've always been good about looking forward to tomorrow. And that's what helped me to get through.
So basically you want to tell everyone they're listening to this how to find yourself in the storm by just telling yourself you're going to be okay. In the midst of the storm, is that what you want to say?
First of all, you tell yourself it's going to be okay.
See, first is tell yourself you're going to be okay.
One thing also is not only do you manipulate your mind that it's going to be okay. You also have to self-analyze. And what I mean by that is a lot of times trials and tribulations will provoke us to have negative feelings. In the midst of going through my life struggles, I had to put my heart on trial as well, because the heart is it's the center of the functionality of our bodies.
Absolutely.
And I had to figure out what was pumping through my bloodstream. With the experiences that I've had with their father dying, being a single mother, having 4 children on my own with no male figure in the home, having people turn their back, what was the condition of my heart? And oftentimes you'll find that if you analyze your heart, you will be able to understand what some of your holdup is, because when you're in a situation, the negative.
You're in the storm, right?
Yeah, when you're in the storm, yeah, and you're sitting here mad about getting rained on or losing your job, and that negativity, it just escalates and escalates, and you find yourself feeling worse and worse and worse. So a lot of people can't self-analyze and self-help. So if you find yourself in a predicament, like I've gone through so much emotional stuff, I've been called crazy, no problem. I just had to really analyze what was in my heart and work on those things. What was I feeling? If it was bitterness, I had to try to find an opposite to bitterness, love. So I gravitated to the opposite things of what I was feeling.
Well, I liked what you said here, and I really want everyone to get this message. What you said is about sharing with your kids and telling them, maybe not in a way that they could get scared, because you don't want them to get scared.
Yes.
But kids sometimes they get confused what's going on, and some of us, we wanted to hide this from our children because we don't want to hurt them.
Yes.
But if you shared with them in a nice way, so I like that a lot.
Yes, thank
Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Explain that a little bit, because that's not every mother will find the courage to do that, because they don't know how to communicate. Tell us, how did you communicate with your children? And is it all of them really connected with you, or some of them they didn't? Did you read them, or what?
No, all 4 of my children, thank God, are connected to me as of today. Even though we didn't have the perfect family, but I raised my children on love and understanding. I kept my children in church, very spiritual. So my way of communicating with them was to just sit them down, and sometimes I may not communicate as calm as other days, but on the days where I needed them to get the message, it was to, sit them down and let them know this is what is going on. A lot of times people they think they're shielding their children, they think they're protecting them, but what I learned is when we give our children a certain amount of exposure to trials, to tribulations, it becomes a family thing. We operate on as a unit to get through the next day, and it made my children resilient. It made them stronger than like my 17-year-old, as I was telling you. We had a personal crisis last year, with our housing, but in the interim, my 17-year-old, he didn't go to the streets and join a gang or start stealing. He went and got a job, not to help me, but to occupy his time in a positive way. So me sharing with my children at young ages how they can, what we were dealing with and what my plan was to get through it. Like I said, it just made them resilient. It made them who they are today.
Nice.
It made them strong.
Well, we're going to talk about that more, about how family, they could, not just yourself, the family, whole family could find themselves in the midst of the storm. So stay tuned with us. We'll be right back.